Welcome to the other 99 times Count Your Blessings, where each week we talk to people who focus on the 99 times things go right in their life rather than the one time things go wrong. Today, I am speaking with two of my favorite people. I call them marriage goals couples, what love looks like, what faith in humanity should emulate. Jenn Gotzon has co-starred in very highly acclaimed movies like Doonesby, Frost Nixon, God's Not Dead 2, and Jim E. Chandler with a very respected catalog of movies of his own, including The Colors of Emily and Saving Faith. And they are both starring right now in probably what's going to be one of my favorite Christmas movies, which is The Farmer and the Belle. And thank you so much for joining us. Just the look on your faces right now tells me this is going to be an amazing segment. I say that with sincerity, that you two are my marriage goals. After watching the trailer to your movie, I say to myself, you know, it's possible to work with each other in an industry and still remain happy. But that's the perception I have. Is that indeed the case? Jenn, let's start with you. Is it? See, we keep it real here on the other 99.
I'm 100% a hot mess all the time, and he's 100% amazing. And I'm learning each day how to be a better person.
Jim, do you agree?
Well, I think it's
okay.
Happiness.
I'll still make you dinner.
No,
to be honest.
No, if your only goal in life is to be happy, then you're gonna fall, and then it's never gonna be attainable, you know. And you know, being content and working in a committed relationship, that's more important than finally finding happiness, so say, because the journey is the most important thing, and the only way that we can really become content is to go through some type of difficulty. And the difficulty that we go through, they're really trivial in nature, but that's part of the process, and that just shows that we can work together because we can get through those things.
Let's talk about your journeys. There are some points in the lives of everyone where we kind of hit real lows, and we look up and we're just like, God, I don't know what you're trying to tell me, but I don't hear it and I don't understand it. Let's talk first with you, Jenn. Were there moments like that in your life?
Oh, absolutely. I wish there would not be, but then that would be lying, and I don't think it's good to lie.
Not here. This is a safe space. This is a very safe space.
I think there's so many. One that comes to my mind is prior to meeting this lovely man right here, and it happened in 2012. And trying to be as transparent and real as possible, I was in a marriage that was very lonely, brought to by myself for my own emotional imbalances. As an actor, I've gotten crazy ups and downs, and also some health issues with my family that has come through. And my husband at that time did not want to stay anymore because he fell out of love with me, and explained that he is happier when I'm not around. And so things like that are really hard, and he wasn't attracted to me. So I dealt with image, I dealt with beauty, I dealt with rejection of who I am, not feeling worthy or valued, and also so alone. And realizing that because I'm a hot mess, who would ever want me?
We all are.
Who's not? Who's not?
Who is not a hot mess? The pain, I think a lot of us have dealt with. A lot of what we do here on this show is explore the fact that you have dealt with this void and this emptiness, and not necessarily by your own hands, but I would like to believe that you've done some self-reflection. But the growth that I see, the love that I feel when I talk to you shows me that you've taken that one time and you found your 99. I think you're kind of sitting next to your major 99 right now. And tell me, Jim, how it feels to be with a woman who has taken this journey, who has been that low, and help raise her up. Help raise her up, because I'm sure you're able to do it yourself, but kind of help her on that journey.
It's been a wonderful learning experience for myself as well, because the first thing that I wanted to do and what I was instructed to do, because I sought counsel about after meeting her and be like, oh wow, this girl's kind of neat. I need to, well, let's see what, and yeah, and the guy, the pastor that married us was the one who I was in communication with, and he said, just be her friend, just continue to be her friend, because she was going through a difficult time. So the way that I could do what I could to lift her up was to be a nice guy, you know, and part of that for me was to, you know, write her little encouraging notes and cards, and when I spoke with her on the phone, it was just to let her know that I thought that she was beautiful.
And I rejected it. Every time he would say it, my soul would say, la 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 la.
Because
I
you
do not
weren't-
believe
She
it.
wasn't
weren't
ready.
accustomed
She wasn't
to
ready,
it.
but it, I mean, you know, it just needed to take the time that it needed to take.
Do you think that there's a perception?
I forgot what I was saying, but go ahead.
Do you see this, love? Do you see why I had to have them on this show? I think there's a perception of people that do movies that the life is so glamorous. Like, what could possibly go wrong? It's a false perception, obviously. If you watch any media or news program, you see that people, it doesn't matter how much money you have or how much fame, things happen. Jim, please share with me what your lowest moment was and how you were able to kind of just pull yourself out.
Sure. Well, I wasn't, you know, I haven't been fervently pursuing acting as a career because of such a long period of time of where I was wrapped up in a drug addiction and alcohol addiction. So some of my low points were actually really wrapped up in denial as well, was thinking that I was okay, but when you're sleeping in the streets, you're not okay. But that disease of the mind can really have you convinced that you're able to get yourself out of it. And there wasn't anything in my own strength that I was able to get out of that for. There was only God was in control of that. And the thing that gave me the inclination to finally deny the denial and say, okay, I'm ready. And you know, I was in a dark place for probably 10 to 13 years. Wow. Of just the continuous cycle of drinking, using drugs, hanging out in places I shouldn't be, just that the things that you can imagine and worse, you know. So being brought out of that, and that I was only brought out and victorious through Christ and through Jesus, and through getting into a recovery program that took more than a year to complete, getting some cognitive restructuring and renewing my faith, and then only then was I able to use the gifts that God had given me as spiritual gifts. Before they were just, they were still given to me by God, but they were self-seeking talents. I was able to have some limited success in the acting world. You know, I booked my first major television show while I was in active addiction. But after going through recovery, I've actually just last week I celebrated 5 years clean. So after that, that was when the ball started to roll more as far as the quote unquote success began to take form and to take shape. And it was only when I was using it as a gift of worship instead of a way for self-actualization and having it to be self-seeking. Only when that shift happened was I able to really experience what the success of acting could be.
I want to talk about your gifts because you both use them so well and you're both so good at what you do. How much of what you bring to the big screen and to the small screen and to the work that you do is harvested from the pain that you've experienced?
And do you want to go first?
Go for it.
Okay. I actually tend not to draw from those types of places. I am a pretty organized person when I think about my process as far as acting is concerned. Again, I haven't had to do any roles that were so deeply rooted, except one was the Rains Maker, where I did have to kind of tap into that imaginative space. But it wasn't ever really a dangerous place for me to go because I know, but I still had to, rely on prayer through those difficult roles that I have had to play. So I did tap into a portion of that, but I never, it's kind of hard for me to describe. I'm more of like focus, get the lines, and then now what would it be like if I was in this situation? Sure. Not what have I been through that relates to this that I can pull from. Like I don't necessarily do that, and I don't think you do either, but you.
Yeah, coming from a from an educational background of Meisner, where you're creating an imaginative circumstance. So you take the script, you take the character, and then you identify the imagination inside your own life, your own behaviors to bring that on screen. So that's been a space I've been trained with. But recently, a movie, My Daddy Is in Heaven, that character hit moments that were so connected to my own soul wounds from that place of rejection, and almost, to be honest with you, feeling like God abandoned me, feeling like God did not answer my prayers, that I had such faith that knowing God, if Jesus can raise a man from the dead, and we know that's true in the Bible, why can't he heal, in my case, this broken marriage divorce? Because I was so embarrassed of not doing it right, not being the perfect Christian, being judged, all of those things. And so the movie My Daddy's in Heaven, we would get into scenes, and I would literally feel as if the Holy Spirit would say to me, Jen, I want you to put this on the altar right now. And I want you to use this script in this scene to take this pain that you're holding against me and just give it to me. And that is what happened through My Daddy Is in Heaven. And as a result of a real life story of real life grief in my own life, I ended up to experience a new real life hope and a release in the Lord. And Jim plays the supporting character at the end.
A role in that too.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to leave it in this segment on that note.
Oh gosh, I talk too much.
You do not talk too much. I think I want to continue the journey with you, but we do have to pay some bills. But let's talk a little bit more about that when we come back. The journey continues with both Jenn and Jim, and we also talk about some new projects that they have, and we definitely discuss their other 99. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the other 99 times Count Your Blessing. I have the privilege of taking a journey here with Jenn Gotzon Chandler and Jim E. Chandler. We've talked about so many wonderful experiences. We've talked about some bad experiences, but what I want to clarify during the course of our conversation is the breakthroughs that you make, the progress that you make is constant. It's a constant work in progress. And I want to talk a little bit more about that now, because I never want people to get the impression that our guests are here and it was an instantaneous fix. You know, you talked about your 13 to 15 year journey, and Jen, I feel like you're still on a journey as well. What is a day-to-day like for somebody trying to find the 99 things to be appreciative of? What is that like for you?
It's a great question. Since a lie that's embedded in my soul started when I was younger, and that is, if you're beautiful by society's standards, then you're worthy to be loved. And so when I recognized that from the divorce, it hit me to the core and reshaped everything. So daily, I have to renew my mind in the scriptures. And that's where I go to, is the Bible, and I read the Bible and I pray. And if I don't take that time in the morning to do that, I feel something is off inside of me. It's clear when I can spend time to refocus on my mind. And we've been working on a concept called Mojo, where M-O-J-O, and M is, I'm a magnificent masterpiece, wonderfully created in the image of God. And I find myself believing that helps restore my mind to know that my value is not about this, but it's about who God created me unique with gifts to give to others and to be joyful in that.
As we were working on the book, the subtitle is Training Your Mind to Enjoy Serenity. So I can completely relate with what you're doing. And it is a training. It's just a constant learning about how to not focus on the negative. And again, it's not easy. It is not easy, trust me. I completely understand that. But you commit to it and you want it and you see where you want to be. and then you just train your focus on that. How do you do that?
Well, you mentioned a wonderful word, which is serenity, and part of that is, the serenity prayer is to accept the things I cannot change, and that means people, places, and things a lot of the times. There are certain things that we can change in our lives, and we should focus on those, and those need to begin with ourselves. It isn't about trying to change other people. It needs to be about changing ourselves and becoming accepting who we are and where God has us at that moment, and understanding that that's okay, and it's okay to struggle.
You both are in a very difficult industry in that aesthetics play a role in it, image plays a role in it, and you always have to try, you always have to be on. How do you keep from falling into the abyss of that imagery and kind of getting drawn back to the lows where you are? Because it's easy to kind of stumble and fall.
We're doing a movie called The Farmer and the Belle about our real love story, and there's a moment in it where the little girl, the character I'll play, sees a magazine, and the magazine says looks aren't everything, they're the only thing. And that's where she holds it to her heart and saying, I know what I'm going to be when I grow up. I'm going to be beautiful and everyone's going to love me. And so on your question, it's that experience of saying we need to be transparent, we need to be vulnerable, we need to look at our inner worth as the who and the value of who we are, and each moment throughout the day to hold captive those negative thoughts onto Christ and to surrender them to Christ. And the only way we heal is when we take that lie and bring it to Scripture and allow the Scripture of truth to shine into the darkness. And that's the only way that we really get healing.
Jim, what's your biggest fear in life?
Going down in there now.
No!
I'm digging deep.
Spiders. No.
The Browns.
Gosh, my biggest fear, I never really have spent a lot of time trying to focus on what I'm afraid of. So I think that some of the lies or some of the fears that do come into my mind is that I'm not going to be a successful continual working actor. And I think that those are the things that struggle, or that I'm going to somehow, I know that I'm going to fail. So I'm not afraid of failure. I think I'm probably more afraid of success. I think that's probably the biggest challenge, is understanding that I need to put myself out there in other ways, not just in acting. And I don't know, I'm pretty comfortable with where I am as a person. And I don't mean that I'm there, that I've made it, but I understand that I'm flawed, and that I'm going to remain flawed, and that I'm going to continue to work on those flaws, because I'm certainly not perfect. But I don't want to live in a world where I'm constantly afraid of things. I think the biggest fear is something will happen where I won't be able to provide, or that I won't be able to provide for Jen and provide for our future. It's like I'm trying to constantly negotiate with the future so I have to do the correct things now so that our future can be fulfilling.
Jen, I feel the two of you are so connected, you may possibly share the same fear. Perhaps.
Stop tears. I think my fear is that we're getting, oh my gosh, I'm so crying. We're getting too old to have a baby.
And you explore that with each other, I think, and you share that. Thank you, first of all, for the honesty that you're bringing here, because it's important. It's important, and if you apologize, do never apologize for the cleanse. I call tears the cleanse.
Then I need a bunch of snot rags to cleanse it all out, baby.
We're going to make sure that the crew knows this the next time. And here we go, outside. Pay no attention to the man outside the camera, everyone. I appreciate the honesty, because you are literally the personification of what this program is about. It's about letting the world know that we're not we, and I say we because I sit here as the host, but I share the journey with you because I've been on my own journey as well. and I have to find my own 99s, and I'm trying not to look at Jen. Because we all have our moments. We all know we have our flaws, and we all know that there needs to be a healing process. Your honesty, I think, is necessary for anybody that's listening that probably shares the same concern. And while I can't sit here and say, oh, you'll be fine, there are so many other ways to bring a baby into the home, because that would be discounting what your fears are or what your concerns are. What I want to hear from you is that you do have a hope, that there is a faith that he's gonna do what he feels is necessary. Do you find that?
Yeah, it's so beautiful is that we know with God, all things are possible, and God works all things together for good for those who believe in him, who have an open heart to trust him, who have a space in their soul to really rest into that serenity. But it takes us to believe that, and us to constantly die to our flesh, our own will, to say, God, not my will, thy will be done. Give us this day our daily bread, and not just food, but our daily bread is in, Lord, show us today what you need us to do to finish the call you have in our life.
Very good at taking us to our next break each time. You always end a segment with just the perfect words. So we're going to come back after the break with some final words from both Jenn and Jim, and talk a little bit about what their 99 are, and say goodbye to you. So come on back. Welcome back to the other 99 times Count Your Blessings. We are having a very good time on the set. And we have time now for final words from two of my favorite people ever. Final words from you, Jim, just about your 99, your process, a word of hope.
The word of hope for me is just a real quick story, is that just to keep going and to keep walking in faith. When I moved to New York, before me and Jenn actually became engaged, when I came up here to pursue her and to pursue acting, I was homeless and I didn't have a place to live because it fell through. But I continued to drive to New York. I made it, and then through a providential series of events, I ran into somebody I went to high school with who had a house, and that's the house that we're living in now. I started living there first, and it was because I didn't turn back and go towards my past. I kept focused on my future, and I kept going towards that goal that I knew God had for me. And
Gosh,
here we are.
it's so good. I love it. I see a bridge, and Jim has helped me learn that, is that when you can choose to look back in the past and take the crap, or you could choose to go forward over the bridge and keeping your eyes on Christ. How do you do that? That's the hard part. And this man has been so patient and encouraging and just speak life into me daily to keep me in line with the call that we're uniquely doing together.
I love this journey. At the end of each program, I love to present our guests with a signed copy of the other 99 times. It's signed by the author, Carlos Wallace.
And who is that author?
The author happens to be somebody very special and dear to me. He's also the creative consultant of this program as well. And,
Yes.
the show obviously is an adaptation of what's in the book. And I just present this to both of
Thank
you.
you so much.
It continues to encourage you, and I hope it continues to help you both move on your journey.
Yeah.
Thank you all for being with us again for this amazing episode. Find your 99. Don't focus on the negative. As you can see here with these two beautiful people, it is possible to move on past the lowest and reach the highest. It's a work in progress. Don't give up on yourselves. Always see yourself as beautiful. Join us again next week for another episode of The Other 99 Times, and I'm going to keep talking to these wonderful people here. Thank you guys so much for being here. Okay, it's safe.